Since 2009, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development has been implementing a joint UN program on female genital mutilation, fighting on development of a conducive legal and policy framework to strengthen access to services by survivors, increasing awareness among communities on the dangers of female genital mutilation, and gathering evidence in form of data and case studies to facilitate our advocacy interventions. Under this partnership, we have been able to reduce the prevalence from 1.4% in 2011 to 0.3% in 2016 at the national level. However, prevalence in the practicing districts of Kapchorwa and Sabei, of Karamoja and Sabei region is still on average 50% in Karamoja and 20% in Sabei. We therefore still have a lot of work to do to make FGM history by 2030. Female genital mutilation is one of the worst form of dehumanization that any human being can go through. It is also the worst form of gender inequality because it takes away the womanhood, dignity, and worth of the woman, making her vulnerable to secondary abuse by physical and sexual and emotional nature. In 2018, Uganda made a commitment at the global level to accelerate abandonment of female genital mutilation, stroke cutting, by at least 95% by the end of last year. With a drop in the prevalence rate from 1.4 to 3%, some success have been achieved, although focus needs to be enhanced within the practicing communities where the prevalence remains high. We are therefore concerned that female genital mutilation continues to be one of the most persistent, pervasive, and silently endured human rights violations in the practicing communities. Currently, my ministry is working on a proposal for the next phase of program implementation, which ends in 2030. With strong support from our key partners, UNFPA and the UNICEF, we are hopeful that we can accelerate the elimination of female genital mutilation vice by 2030. Whereas we appreciate the implementation role of the development partners, we must also take note that sustaining our agenda requires mainstreaming and integrating gender-based violence and female genital mutilation into plans and budgets of government, ministries, departments, and agencies, and as well as local government. As we work through partnership, we continue to lobby Parliament and other government stakeholders for budget allocation, as well as recruitment and retooling of duty bearers, especially law enforcement officers. More importantly, we continue to advocate for integration of female genital mutilation activities into districts, sub-counties, plans, as well as other existing government programs, including the parish development model, to enhance household incomes so that the girls are no longer seen as a source of wealth. As such, the theme for this year's Zero Tolerance Day is accelerating investment to end female genital mutilation. The theme is a call on increasing investment at all levels, starting with the national down to the local government level. As noted, the United Nations Joint Program, run by UNFPA and UNICEF, has supported us since 2008, and the government has also been providing 200 million shillings annually to stop the vice. We need to scale up this funding provision for female genital mutilation to be more impactful. Last year in September, I led a delegation of the honorable members of Parliament to the field mission in the FGM practicing districts. The evidence gathered or generated from survivors and duty bearers was clear that we need sustained funding for the holistic approach for the complete abandonment of female genital mutilation. Our key areas of intervention are economic empowerment for women and girls through education, skilling, and linkages to existing financial services. Industrialization and construction of shelters in the local governments, providing second chance education to the mothers and survivors of female genital mutilation. As we move towards the end of female genital mutilation, we need to realize that a deep-rooted cultural practice cannot be eliminated without an alternative rite of passage that is community-driven and community-owned. To this end, we will work with the community gatekeepers to facilitate communities in identifying an alternative rite of passage. We have implemented FGM laws since 2010. We have noted emerging trends that require review and creativity. We shall therefore use the current female genital mutilation phrase to review the female genital mutilation laws and all its regulations in view of the new clandestine methods of cutting exhibited in the last 2 years, including medicalization and the role of traditional birth attendants in cutting women during delivery. Under the framework of the National Policy and Regulation of Female Genital Mutilation and all forms of gender-based violence, we shall also put emphasis on system generating at national and local government level for effective referral, including involvement of women councils and youth councils. We have noted with concern that the main characteristic of female genital mutilation practicing communities is the poor infrastructure ranging from roads, radios, schools, and telephone coverage. To this end, my ministry has built partnership with local government, cultural and religious institutions to address the social norms and behaviors. We are also working with other ministries, departments, and agencies, the civil society stakeholders, as well as the media. Through these partnerships, community awareness on the dangers of the practice has increased, pronouncements and declarations have been made, and survivors have been supported to access services such as fistula repair, other health services, legal, psychosocial services inclusive. At the regional level, we committed ourselves as a country in the East African community and Greater Horn of Africa to end cross-border migration for female genital mutilation. We committed to lift female genital mutilation to the highest level. We committed to end female genital mutilation to the highest level of political leadership in order to get resources and also increase accountability. We further committed to create an enabling environment, transforming social and gender norms, providing appropriate quality and systematic services to survivors, as well as strengthening our capacity to generate and use evidence of data for policy making and improving programming. Our priorities for the next 5 years include male involvement of the youth and young people, cultural and traditional leaders, for identification of an alternative rite of passage, conducting anthropological contextual-specific research, and documentation of good practices. We shall continue to strengthen and prioritize cross-border interventions, and we believe this will enable us to achieve our vision of eliminating female genital mutilation by 2030. We will continue to be on the high vigilance, given that 2022 is a cutting season. Noting that most of the female genital practicing areas are vast and hard to reach with difficult terrain, we need new approaches and renewed zeal because the situation is still bad. Every one of us has a role to play, and I emphasize that female genital mutilation is outlawed in Uganda and in the neighboring countries, and therefore urge parents to stop the habit of facilitating migration of children because they will be caught by law enforcement officers and they will be prosecuted. As I conclude, I want to appreciate our development partners, specifically UNFPA and UNICEF, and the various donors who provide financial support because it has enabled us to move this far. I'm also sure that the partnership we have developed, which has been strongly rooted at the national and local level, will facilitate us to realize tangible results towards ending FGM. I wish to thank all stakeholders for the efforts you are putting in to fight the vice of female genital mutilation, and I note the contribution of the community leaders, culture and religious leaders, technocrats and political leaders in mobilizing communities to abandon the practice. And I also wish to appreciate the work of the law enforcement officers in responding to protect the girls and women facing the threat of female genital mutilation practice. Lastly, I want to thank Kapchorwa District Local Government for hosting the Zero Tolerance Day event and invite all Ugandans to follow the proceedings on media. Thank you.